Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and today's episode for the Leyland Cars all model catalogue part 7. Hello, welcome back to Quarterlight, and if you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars, car knowledge, looking back at cars gone by that we fondly or less fondly remember, please consider subscribing. It's completely free, helps you find the videos you want to see, and also helps the channel grow and give you better content. Anyway, back to today's episode. Amazingly, we're up to part 7 now of this Leyland Cars catalogue, and we've moved up the range, and we're getting to the end of the brochure now because we've arrived at Jaguar. So let's have a look at that one now. So there we go, today's brochure from 1977, Leyland Cars all model catalogue. We're actually up to part 7 now. We've looked at this front cover, we've looked at a few technical details, and we've gone through the range. I'll put a link at the end of this brochure so you can watch the other episodes. It really doesn't matter too much what particular order you go in, to be honest with you, so stay with us. We're high up the range now, up to Jag, so let's move to that page now. So next up the range is Jag, like I say, and I always think the Jag in this particular brochure is a big leap up there, really, isn't it? Pardon the pun. But the previous model, of course, was the big Rovers, and obviously going down to Triumph, etc, etc, as we go down the range. And like I say, we've got all that if you want to look, the full brochure. We can do a link at the end. But like I say, Jaguar is a big leap forward. You can almost imagine buying the other cars. I think, alright, a Rover 3500, you would have had to be doing really rather well at work to be affording something like that, but conceivably you could have possibly get one as a company car, and even into the second-hand market, even though that's a brand new car here. But the Jag, I don't think many people would have thought, certainly not the average person would have thought, I'm going to go into the Jaguar dealer and pick up a brand new Jaguar. Certainly he was doing very well, or he was privileged to be able to do that. And of course, we look at the average car, so it almost doesn't fit in, apart from the fact you could buy Jags really cheap on the second-hand market. So that's certainly let the average person certainly consider a Jaguar sometime in the Jaguar timeline. Anyway, let's start at the top here, have a look at a little bit of an introduction to the Jaguar range, and then look at this rather lovely XJS. So Jaguar, a car for the individualist, of course. It's a flashy car, we got all the big words in this now. A promise renewed. For many, the Jaguar range has heralded a new era of superlative motoring. An incomparable blend of design, performance, engineering and safety, which has become the very hallmark of practical luxury. Most certainly, a Jaguar is for the comparatively rare person, the true individualist, for people who care about craftsmanship and painstaking attention to detail. A special car for special people. The singular beauty of these models lies in the way they combine the panache of a sports coupe with the comfort and spaciousness of a 4-seat luxury saloon. The unique, subtle blending of verve and elegance. The latest Jaguar range will take its rightful place just a little ahead of their predecessors as one of the safest, most desirable and best value for money ranges Jaguar has ever offered. So here it is, the XJS. I guess is going to be the first one up. An earlier XJS, of course, and a relatively more modern car for this brochure. First introduced in 75, this is a 76 brochure. I always think with the XJS, it was a little bit of a, I don't know, possibly a little bit disappointed after the E-Type. I mean, the E-Type was possibly one of the most beautiful cars ever built, and then the XJS was a bit frumpy maybe. I think later on, and particularly now, I think we look back at these more favourably than I guess when they came out. But anyway, let's turn the page over and have a look at the range. So no, when we turn the first page, we're not going to be looking at the XJS first up. We're going to have a look at the big saloons with the Jaguar XJ 3.4, 4.2 and 5.3. So the Jaguar XJ 3.4 offers standards of design, engineering, performance and safety similar to the other cars, coupled with the new efficiency and economy from the 3.4 version of the famous XK engine. Your passengers can relax in the private world environment and revel in the seductive smoothness and quietness of the ride. If they closed their eyes, they would not know in which Jaguar they were riding. Perhaps the quintessential car in the range is the XJ 4.2. Here is a thoroughbred piece of engineering which is every inch a Jaguar. The fine lines, the roomy interior, the excellence of performance are all unmistakable. The 6-cylinder XK engine is hardly ever stretched and is inexhaustibly in its eager response in all road or traffic conditions. The Jaguar XJ 5.3 is justably famous and truly remarkable, even for a Jaguar. The effortless, relaxed surge of power from its famous V12 engine is balanced by the additional refinements of the most sophisticated piece of engineering ever offered by Jaguar: electronic fuel injection. For those who aspire to the ultimate of the XJ 5.3, this car is an unforgettable experience. So these Jaguars would actually be the Series 2 models, which ran from 73 to 79, and I think it's fair to say these are actually my favourite series, the Series 2s, although I quite like the Series 3 as well, but I think the Series 2 was overall, I think, my favourite design. So they are lovely cars, but at no time have I ever considered owning one. They are, for one, they were huge on British roads, so quite a thing to be driving around, and two, there was nowhere, well, I would have been too young anyway, but there's no way I would have ever been able to afford a brand new Jag. Second-hand market, yeah, they were extremely cheap, but at the same time, unless you was a pretty competent mechanic, they were going to be expensive things to run, and of course they got a reputation for being extremely unreliable. But let's just forget that for a moment. They are very beautiful cars. Let's have a look at the interior. So it certainly looks a lovely place to be with all that switchgear. This is apparently the 5.3. I'm certainly no Jag expert. I'm not sure if there's an easy way to tell the differences between the different engine sizes on the inside, but I'm told this is the 5.3. Otherwise, I certainly wouldn't have been able to tell you from just looking at that interior picture. Very traditional Jag steering wheel, that very sort of thin steering wheel. Overall, I think that's where Jags really won out from all the competition. I always thought they had the nicest interiors. And this, I'm told, is the, I guess, the baby. Well, it's hard to call it the baby of the family. This is the smallest engine model, the 3.4. Again, I'm reading that. I wouldn't have been able to know from looking at the outside between this and the other engine sizes. I'm certainly not a Jag expert in spotting that, but you know, 3.4, I think I would have been more than happy driving this around, and certainly you would have been seen as someone a little bit special if you bought this brand new, whichever engine size that you bought. Just zoomed in on the front there to really highlight those beautiful headlights. I always really like those. It couldn't be anything but a Jag, could it? And that really nice grille. I always like the front of these. The other reason I kind of zoomed in on this, the number plate there, GHP 27S. Now that's doesn't really, well, you can see it's too bright for the picture. They used to edit those for various different brochures, so this picture was probably shown also on a much earlier brochure as well, but they wanted to it looked like a brand new car, so they kind of like edit the number plates, so that's certainly what they've done here. The wheels there, yeah, they're just a steel wheel, but with that sort of hubcap I still think they look extremely classy. And if we try and sneak a look inside this Jaguar, this is the base model 3.4 and no head restraints. Surprising, isn't it? No head restraints on the base model. And I guess that's how you kind of like work out that this particular model isn't that base model, just by the fact it's got head restraints. I also think the base model didn't come with leather seats. And that takes us to the next model in the range. Yeah, we've been joined now with a Jag XJS. I'm going to say the sporty Jag, but I don't really think they were really going for that sportiness. I think it was more grand touring, I guess. But let's have a look how it describes it. So the Jag XJS belongs to that rare breed of car created for those who place perfection beyond price. To say that in many respects it surpasses those few cars in its class is an understatement. The Jag XJS creates a class of its own. Even for a Jaguar, its performance is breathtaking, yet the efficiency of its aerodynamic design and 5.3 litre V12 engine combine to produce competitive fuel economy. Aerodynamic forces are harnessed to contribute dramatically to the extraordinary road holding and stability of the XJS. In fact, every function has been engineered to complement the high performance of this, the pinnacle of Jaguar evolution. These include the instrumentation, headlights, tyres and even telescopic bumpers, the first of their kind in Europe. And I guess that's a little bit of a nudge towards, those catering really for North America, and they would have sold a lot to North America. The seats too inevitably set the standard for others to follow. The Jaguar XJS is at once a high performance car and a grand touring car, which exceeds even the most aristocratic traditions of automotive comfort, safety and luxury. No one but Jaguar could take you so fast and so far towards perfection. So there we go, I've zoomed straight into the dash there. Pretty well equipped with all those dials etc on there. Well equipped of course, as you would expect for a Jag, but certainly looks very 70s. And then I look at that dash. Lots of black, isn't there? Surprisingly no wood on these early ones. I think they was trying to separate it from all the wood on the big saloon and show it was more of a sporty car, although later ones filled them with wood again to be more traditional, and I think people started realising they were more grand tours than sporting cars. But I say I quite like the sort of like bits of bright work in there to split it off. It certainly looks very 70s though, doesn't it? And then we get this tiny little image actually looking at the seats. Of course they're not showing us the rear seats because there isn't really much in the way of legroom, so they've kind of omitted to show too much of those rear seats, but we can certainly see from that image there isn't too much space in the rear. And the main image is actually quite a poor one. I think they've gone for this sort of like mean and moody twilight or early morning sort of shot with all the darkness and shadows there, which I don't think really works too well, but there we go. A little bit of a look at these early XJSs, and certainly early by this time, and certainly if you was flicking through this brochure and looking to buy, I don't know, an Austin Allegro, and you moved to these back pages, you would have been like, wow, what an amazing looking car. I've always quite liked them, I must admit. But like I say, after the E-Type, I think there was a little bit disappointing really in some ways. And if you forget the E-Type, I think if we look back at them now, I think they are becoming more and more collectible. At one time, you could probably pick these up for next to nothing. That is, of course, on the second-hand used market, brand new. I think you would have to be someone a little bit special to be able to afford something like this. So it kind of lands on the crease there, but I was going to say I wasn't a huge fan of these wheels on these early ones. The later ones had much nicer wheels than that. I do think though it did fall at a bad time, of course, you know, fuel crises, who wants these big cars, and I think there was some sort of controversy with the designs as well, with certainly these like buttresses at the rear there, causing a little bit of issues with some countries, you know, difficult for rear visibility, etc, etc. Like I say, overall I liked the car overall, but I think it was a pretty slow seller actually in the 70s, and I think by 81 they kind of like stopped production because, you know, there were so many unsold models, and even at that time there was even deciding to considering discontinuing the car altogether, but they give it a bit of a facelift and it certainly seemed to carry on, but not a huge success that Jag was really expecting it to be, I would say. Anyway, let's have a look at the specs. So the 3.4 was a 6-cylinder 3442cc engine, 161 bhp at 5,250 revs per minute. Transmission, a 4-speed manual. That's surprising, isn't it? You don't really expect to have a Jag with a manual transmission, or you? Seems a little bit weird. You know, you've done well for yourself. You don't want to be changing gears yourself, do you? Surely. But it's also got an overdrive on top gear, or a Borg Warner automatic model 65 3-speed. I would imagine most people would have chosen the auto. I would imagine the manual would certainly be a very rare one today to find. Rack and pinion steering, and of course it's power assisted steering as well. Road wheels, Dunlop silver painted sculpted steel wheels, or steel wheels on your Jag. Brakes, servo assisted disc brakes all round. Suspension, fully independent semi-trailing wishbones and coil springs, anti-dive geometry, Girling monotube hydraulic dampers, anti-roll bar, and the rear lower transverse wishbones with drive shafts acting as upper links, radius arms, twin coil springs and damper units, Girling monotube dampers. And then the electrical for this base model, so 12 volts, electrically heated rear window, hazard lamps, cigar lighter, boot lamp, push button radio stereo unit, instruments, speedometer, tachometer, fuel gauge, water temperature gauge, oil pressure gauge, battery condition gauge, clock, warning lamps to show flashes working, headlamp high beams, no charge, low oil pressure, hazard lamps working, handbrake on, and brake system failure. It talks about the coach work, laminated windscreen, deep pile carpeting, cloth trim seats, so cloth seats on this model, individual front seats with armrests on front doors, centre console, 4-door mounted radio speakers, and a manual aerial. I don't know, you always think about Jags with a leather seats, but actually I don't particularly like leather seats, so I don't think I would have minded too much. The base model was just cloth trimmed, I don't think. But you can get options, so we get fog lamps, white wall tyres, tinted glass, chromium plated pressed steel wheels, alloy wheels, rear lap and diagonal seat belts, choice of audio equipment, electric aerial, remote control driver's door mirror, and head restraints. So again, unusual. Head restraints, optional extra. And then we get the middle model of the XJ family, the 4.2, as described for the XJ 3.4 with the following variations. So this is also a 6-cylinder but a 4235cc engine, maximum power 166 bhp at 4,750 revs per minute, electrical 12 volts. We've got electrically heated rear window, hazard lamps, cigar lighter, electrically operated windows with centre isolating master switch, boot lamp, central electric door locking system, and push button radio stereo unit. So it does say, as described with the 3.4 with the following variations. Electrically heated rear window, etc. was also on the base model, although this has got electric windows, so the base model didn't get electric windows, so crank windows on your base Jag. That would be unusual. Moving down, so it's a 4-door, 4 to 5 seater, of course. Laminated windscreen, deep pile carpeting, Connolly leather facings, there we go. Cloth is optional though. Individual front seats with armrests on front doors, front seat head restraints, central console, 4-door mounted radio speakers and a manual aerial. So it seems like the 4.2 was really the model to go for. You did in the UK though have to add extra if you wanted air conditioning, fog lamps, white wall tyres, tinted glass, chromium plated steel wheels, alloy wheels, rear lap and diagonal seat belts, choice of audio equipment, electric aerial, remote controlled driver's door mirror. But then we get to the top model, the 5.3, and you really bought this for the engine, didn't you? As described for the XJ 3.4, but with the following variations: the 12-cylinder V configuration, 43cc engine, maximum power 284 bhp at 5,750 revs per minute. Transmissions, GM 400 auto gearbox. Road wheels, Dunlop silver painted sculpted steel wheels. Electrical, 12 volt 68 amp hour battery, electrically heated rear window, hazard lamp, cigar lighter, electrically operated windows with central isolated master switch, boot lamp, central electric door locking system, push button radio stereo units. Coachwork integral construction, 4-door, 4-5 seater, steel panelled body, laminated windscreen, tinted glass, deep pile carpeting, Connolly leather seat facing, cloth trim optional. Individual front seats with armrests on front doors, front seat head restraints, black grained vinyl roof, coach line, central console, 4 door mounted radio speakers and a manual aerial. And finally you can option it with air conditioning, fog lamps, white wall tyres, chromium plated steel wheels, alloy wheels, rear lap and diagonal seat belts, choice of audio equipment, electric aerial, remote control driver's door mirror. Sorry, it does fall on the crease, so it's a little bit hard to see. And the XJS, which actually, when I'm looking at the next page, they were actually considering doing a Daimler S, so a Daimler version of the XJS, but that never really got off the ground. Anyway, so this is a 12-cylinder V configuration, 43cc engine. So, like I said, big engine. Possibly the wrong time with the fuel crisis, I'd probably say. Maximum power 284 bhp at 5750 revs per minute. Transmission 4-speed all synchromesh gearbox or an automatic. So unusual, you could fit them with a manual gearbox, which maybe that may have suited it, but like I say, it was more of a grand tourer than a sports car, so I'm sure most people would have fitted the auto. We get rack and pinion power assisted steering, GKN Kent alloy light alloy wheels to Jaguar design, a little bit unusual. Brakes disc all round, of course. Suspension front fully independent semi-trailing wishbones and coil springs, anti-dive geometry, Girling monotube dampers, anti-roll bar, and at the rear lower transverse wishbones and drive shaft acting as upper links, radius arms, twin coil springs and damper units, Girling monotube dampers and an anti-roll bar. 12 volt 68 amp hour battery, electrically heated rear window, quartz halogen headlamps, hazard lamps, 2-speed windscreen wipers, electrically operated windows, central electric door locking system and a push button radio. Instruments, and again apologise, it does fall on that crease: speedometer, tachometer, fuel gauge, water temperature gauge, oil pressure gauge, battery condition indicator, clock, warning lamps to show flashes working, headlamp high beam, no charge, low oil pressure, heated rear window on, fog lamps on, battery overcharge, low fuel level, hazard lamps working, low coolant brake line failure, handbrake on, side lamp failure, stop lamp failure, major failure, stop car and investigate, and secondary faults, investigate as soon as possible. The coachwork is all steel monocoque construction, 2-door, 4-seater. 4-seaters pushing it a bit maybe. Laminated windscreen, tinted glass, forward hinged doors, fully reclining front bucket seats, 2 individual rear bucket seats, head restraints, leather seat facings, deep pile carpeting and air conditioning. So just to show, air conditioning standard on your XJS, weirdly, when it wasn't standard even on the big XJs. And then just moving down, no options, they're pretty much all on the car anyway. So that would then mean our concluding episode will be a Daimler. So we'll look at the Daimler range. Next week, in the final episode, we'll also do a little bit of a recap and see what else is in this brochure, and then maybe we should decide which car of this brochure we would actually choose, but we'll save that for next week. For now, we'll say thank you so much for watching. And as I just flick back, certainly the XJs would be my favourite. Maybe the 4.2 would be happy, but I would think I would have been happy with 3.4. I think it looks a fine automobile. But like I say, thank you so much for watching today. If you've got any memories of these big Jags, you own one, you drove one, you had a little bit of a ride in one at some time as a kid in the back seats, or you just admire the neighbours, please jot in the comments. Always very interesting to hear, for sure. I've added a couple of extra boxes there. That's for future episodes. Oh, sorry, that isn't for future episodes. I'm talking rubbish there. That's actually for other episodes. And I've also done a link to the previous episodes in this particular series. But overall, thank you so much for watching today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's completely free. And we'll see you very soon. So take care and goodbye.